Three huge sports stories right now that clearly indicate a sign of the times. LeBron sure looks phony and lost thanks to social media. Mark Sanchez, life potentially ruined, and all because of cameras everywhere. And an NFL head coach fined 6 figures for something I feel is justified. Perhaps just the latest example of athletes being coddled. I'm Doug Kezirian. This is Hard Pass, also available in podcast. It's a new era in sports, that's for sure. 3 very different situations, but all would have been much different responses if they occurred in another era. And I'm all for evolution. Don't get me wrong. The very definition of the word evolving is positive, right? I get it. But sometimes I see things that just make me shake my head and wonder if we're going too far. And I think we have a couple of examples of that. Let's start with Arizona Cardinals coach Jonathan Gannon, fined $100,000 for, I guess you could call it hitting a player softly in my eyes, where I think he was absolutely justified. In fact, he might have been more justified given the circumstances, cutting the player. And then you have Mark Sanchez, clearly a much different scenario, but now his life is potentially ruined because of an isolated or multiple isolated bad decisions on one night and cameras everywhere. And then LeBron using his fame and social media reach to make money, once again failing to read the room properly. Now, the decision part 2 was both stupid and unnecessary and really phony when you think about it on several levels. My main reaction is LeBron is lost right now, and this may just be the first of a few examples we're going to see of strange behavior. And it's what we expect to be his final year with the Lakers. Now, to be fair, LeBron has never been the most secure celebrity from afar, of course, but still, perhaps a byproduct of growing up with a single parent and having a tough childhood by having to move around a lot. Now, I'll save you the psychoanalysis. I'm no expert, but can you really blame him given the circumstances of his childhood? He's always prioritized as an athlete and a professional camaraderie with teammates, craved peace and harmony, and thus he's been often criticized for lacking that killer instinct a la Michael Jordan. So I think LeBron is rattled right now and thus might feel pretty lost, lacking a foundation without the spotlight he's normally had for all his years in the NBA. For the first time in his career, LeBron is playing on an expiring contract. The Lakers, make no mistake, and as I've said many times, they are done with LeBron James after this season. And he knows it. They made it very clear in a recent press conference, as I indicated in a previous episode of Hard Pass, the NBA's all-time leading scorer and perhaps greatest player ever has no idea how to handle this diminishing level of importance and relevance. He's still a global icon, but in terms of the day-to-day of the NBA, it's diminishing. So we got this fake retirement speculation that turned out to be a Hennessy advertisement, and all I saw was fake self-deprecation for his very bad decision back in 2010.
This was requiring LeBron to go not only do the endorsement, but also access something in the decision that for years, well over a decade, was a third rail topic around him. The fastest way to end a conversation with LeBron or his close associates between about 2010 and maybe about 2022 was bring up the word the decision because they were so deeply scarred.
LeBron is not perfect. No one is. But remember, you can be a fan of an athlete and not love every single thing he does. Sounds pretty obvious, but you have to explain that nowadays because nuance is so often lost and everyone's like all or nothing. I'm in that camp with LeBron. I think he's an incredible player, a true savant on the basketball court. I've been thoroughly impressed with just how he's carried himself throughout his entire career, entering the league at age 18. And I also had the good fortune of working with him for a Nike event a while ago, and he was fantastic. He essentially saved the event because there was all these tech issues, a bunch of high school basketball players in the audience, and he did a wonderful job and was certainly personable with me backstage. His latest decision was nonsense, though. So let's check out a heat check to see how others responded across social media. Game time. Mark safe from LeBron's retirement today. I love this trend that, goes from a serious natural disaster maybe than just mocking things. Edward says, bro is simultaneously likable and unlikable at the same time. I want to support him, but nothing is authentic and it's all just a cash grab. Talking about, obviously, the Hennessy ad. And then this one, bro really made Lakers tickets skyrocket with that dramatic decision trailer. Had everyone thinking it was his last season just to find out it was all a Hennessy promo. Cheapest Laker ticket went from $85 to north of $550. When Kobe announced he was retiring, the cheapest Laker ticket that season was around $317. Talking about the spike in ticket prices for the Lakers' final home game. That's what went up to north of $550. And Mark Spears and have that video that was distributed just talking about sort of the domino effect when LeBron the day prior talked about how another decision was coming the next day. Now, is this the end of the world? Is this an egregious thing by LeBron? Of course not. However, another example of LeBron's inability to read the room, just like the first decision. Yes, we will not have jerseys burned this time, but in this case, he's just out of sorts. In the gambling world, we call this being on tilt, which is emotional confusion that leads to suboptimal strategy and often impulses, right? I truly believe this was so out of character for him. From someone who's always been so careful with his brand, and now we're supposed to think he's the jokey guy who makes fun of himself. No way I am buying that. He has never mocked the decision, as ESPN's Brian Windhorst indicated just a second ago that I showed you. LeBron thought he could generate attention and adulation because there's an emptiness with this, right? It's missing. This is a guy who was on the cover of Sports Illustrated at age 18 and has been in the spotlight since, surpassing all expectations. Now, LeBron's team is Luka's team, and the Lakers did not offer him an extension, which is what he wanted. He's on tilt, coming to terms with his diminishing relevance. He needs the attention and is going to grasp for ways to regain it, and it's going to feel weird whenever he does. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm connecting too many dots. Let me know your thoughts. Perhaps LeBron has matured and he has processed the decision and can now make fun of himself. Join the conversation. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. And now we take a hard turn to Indianapolis, where Mark Sanchez remains in the hospital and awaits his legal problems. The former Jets quarterback and current broadcaster faces prison time as the charges have been upgraded. A 69-year-old truck driver thought his life was in danger when the 38-year-old Sanchez approached him in the wee hours of the night and the weekend and thus used pepper spray and stabbed Sanchez, who was hospitalized. Authorities are awaiting toxicology results, so that could spell even more doom for Sanchez, whose wife of 2 years recently gave birth to their twin daughters. As more details, images, and even videos surface each day, we're all left wondering how this bizarre situation came to be, even the President of the United States weighing in.
That was too bad. He's a nice guy. I don't know what happened. Something bad happened. Something a little crazy happened, but he was I can only report that he was a nice guy. I know him a little bit.
Obviously, Trump and Sanchez go back to their days in New York City when Sanchez played for the Jets. A truly wild situation. Even CTA has been thrown out there by some interested parties as a possible explanation, maybe drugs and alcohol, generated isolated bizarre behavior. The victim has filed a lawsuit towards Sanchez. The family also released a statement, Sanchez's family that is, wishing for his speedy recovery and thanking authorities. Curious to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments section. What do you make of all this that's transpired? What was your initial reaction to the story? And how has that changed as more details have surfaced? What do you make of this seemingly all-American quarterback, right? Guy involved in such an ugly incident. Definitely let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Meanwhile, new developments with the Arizona Cardinals and the player that dropped the ball before crossing the goal line that prevented a touchdown and ultimately cost the Cards a win. We now know that there's a fine of $100,000 for the coach, not the player who dropped the ball before the goal line. Here's video of Jonathan Gannon after Amari DiMarcado committed the foolish play, irate because it prevented that TD, right? As you can see, he hits DiMarcado. I guess you can call it a hit, but let's be real. The running back is 26 years old, 215 pounds, and he's wearing pads. Gannon, maybe $175? Come on. If this happened without any cameras, we wouldn't have heard about it. If this happened in practice, nothing would have occurred in terms of a fine, maybe an apology if it happened in the game and someone saw it, but the video makes it worse. It's not like DeMarcado is pressing charges or is all of a sudden crying. It's this cancel culture nonsense or whatever you want to call it. Nonetheless, the next day, the head coach did apologize.
I woke up this morning and didn't feel great about it, honestly. And so in the team meeting, I addressed it. I apologized to Omari, apologized to the team. And I just told him I kind of let the moment of what happened get the better of me there. Obviously, like I try to be emotionally stable and calm because my job is to solve problems when during a game and kind of lead the charge on that. So it's not really who I am, who I want to be, and I told the guys that today.
And it happens. I mean, I've had coaches fight. I've fought with players. I get it, right? Like, it's an intense game on the sideline. But you don't ever put your hands on somebody on the sideline. He knows it. He apologized for it, but he was dead wrong.
Look, I respect Jeff Saturday a lot. Great career in the NFL, and I enjoyed working with him when I was at ESPN. And I get what he's saying, and apologies are fine, but finding the coach, it just doesn't make sense. When you play sports, you all understand that things will occur in the heat of the moment. They're said, done, even touching or contacting someone. You have latitude within your locker room. They all know the circumstances, and sometimes the emotion gets the best of us. This is not a normal workplace with HR and everything like that, okay? Gannon sized up the situation, even in the heat of the moment, did some quick math on the size of each guy, and made contact. But it's not like he hit someone half his size or did any harm to DeMarcado. Was he really rattled or hurt, he being DeMarcado? Come on, of course not. It's a high-stress situation. If nothing happened with a fine or anything, there's no video or whatnot, nothing would have come of this. If this happened in practice, nothing would have come of this. $100,000 and the guy who dropped the ball for no reason cost the team a win is the victim. It's absurd. Let me know your thoughts. Join the conversation. Weigh in on the comments section. Is it justified? To a certain extent, the apology is, because you don't want a coach who doesn't keep his cool, as Gannon was alluding to. But to have this all come down where it's really the players making the mistake. Now, I will say, there's somebody who said about DeMarcado was not trying to celebrate. He had just run 70-something yards, was tired. It was a careless mistake, but it wasn't all about the celebration like A.D. Mitchell of the Colts was trying to get his celly going. So I am a little bit more forgiving in that regard. It was just a brain cramp, and it wasn't a me, all about me sort of moment. But still, Gannon did nothing wrong, and it may cost him his job. He's been on the hot seat. A win versus a loss, when it's all splitting hairs, I just feel really bad for the coach because he does have control of the locker room. He did the right thing in terms of like yelling at his player. And then, yes, he shouldn't have touched him, but it's not a big deal in my eyes. I would think DeMarcado was ready to let it slide until everyone caught wind of this video. Let's now check in with the fans in the stands, and that is, of course, our audience, our fans in the stands. And we like to respond to a few comments on the last episode and really sort of engage with our audience. We also want to remind you to like and subscribe our videos. It's the currency in this YouTube world. It really helps us out with the analytics, but more so we want to get your feedback. So please leave us a comment, what you like, what you dislike. Always appreciate constructive criticism, but any questions as well. Love to hear your thoughts. It really is to, stimulates the conversation, if you will. TJ loves to fish, and this is talking about the ball dropping before the goal line. They need to build it into the contract of every skill player that if you do this, you miss out on a significant amount of money. That way, maybe that contract language rattles around your head when you're crossing the goal line. This was ideas to maybe change this behavior because it's been going on since 2008 when Deshaun Jackson dropped the ball before the goal line. And for some reason, we continue to see it. We had it back-to-back weeks. It's bizarre, but so what needs to change in order to get the actions to change? Ryan Krause says, am I wrong, or did it look like he reached out and the ball was over the line before he let go of it? I kind of agree. Of course, we don't have the perfect camera shot right down the goal line, but it did look like that was the case. It wasn't celebrating, taunting. It was sort of dropping the ball because he was exhausted. Nonetheless, it did look like the ball, but it was the changing of the hands. And obviously, you never want to leave it to the frame-by-frame evaluation of the replay booth, but it did look like it should have been a touchdown. Instead, it was a close call the other way and everything that ensued. But I did respond saying I thought it was close too. Now, this is about LeBron. So a couple episodes ago, Outlaw JBC545 It's obvious that everyone hates LJ. What's worse is people still talking about him. OKC won the chip. They should get more coverage than anyone. Why talk about him? Nothing he done other than go from being broke to being a billionaire is worth speaking on. And I agree. The macro is that LeBron's an amazing testament to his career, all-time leading scorer. Like I said, how he grew up and everything. It's incredible. But let's be honest. We're in the media. We have to fill airtime on TV. And then we're not going to just talk about the one thing and just talk about OKC. LeBron is a very interesting personality. He's a global superstar. And when he opens his mouth or sends out a tweet, it's news. I do think some people in the media space have ridden his coattails for too long and badmouthed him, and it's not right. And shame on the public for consuming that nonsense. But I do think he has relevance, even though OKC won the championship. Like I said in this comment to Outlaw JBC, I want to discuss that in this episode. So again, join the conversation. Let us know your thoughts and obviously some interesting topics in this episode. Would love to hear your feedback and your thoughts in general regarding these three interesting stories. But that's going to do it for this edition of Hard Pass. And don't forget to like and subscribe.